Good evening, guys. It's week 3 of my update on the Action for Happiness event, which I did called From Surviving to Thriving. Now, during that talk, I mentioned something called impact, and it was an acronym for all of the things that I think are important on the healing journey. I think it's all good and well talking about the trauma, but let's talk about moving on from that trauma. And the impact statement is all about that. So it's week 3. In week 1, I talked about identity. In week 2, I talked about the imagination aspect of the word impact. In in the second part of week 2, I spoke about mindfulness, and the P in the impact statement stands for play. Now, that's what I want to talk about. A bit about play, because when you're traumatized, what trauma does is it puts you in survival mode. I don't want to go into the neuroscience of survival, but what I will say is that survival mode isn't just about the nervous system and the fight and flight. That survival mode interrupts every single system in the body. Trauma changes every system in the body, and because of that, it affects the way we learn, the way we grow, and the way we develop. Now, a really important part of childhood is play. And I'm not saying that children that are going through trauma or who are traumatized, like myself, don't play. What I'm saying is that as an adult that's ready to embark on healing, we need to go back to some of the aspects of childhood that were interrupted. What I love about play is the fact that it allows you to really tap into the imagination side of things and the creativity. I've spoke about imagination, I've spoke about creativity, but when we're talking about what trauma does to us as a child, especially developmental trauma, especially trauma that isn't a one-off event but is a continuous pattern of trauma, it's so important to reconnect with the fun, the curiosity, the imagination, and the happiness that comes from play. How does play literally move us into the healing journey? One of the ways it does that is that it allows us to connect and interconnect with others. Yes, you can play. Of course, you can play alone. But productive play often happens with others. But playing alone is just as important, because playing allows us to connect. Trauma disconnects us from ourselves. Play allows us to reconnect with ourselves first and foremost, and then when we're ready, with others. And that play creates learning, creates growth, and an understanding of the ways in which trauma affected us. And some of that is painful. And I hope I've said this before. I think I've said this before, that healing is painful. I don't want to sit here and pretend that my healing journey has been a lovely, linear, easy journey, because it really hasn't. And I haven't reached the end of that journey, because healing isn't linear. Play gives us agency. It gives us the ability to act, to do something fun, to do something that allows us to move away from the serious side of trauma into looking at who we are, who we were, and what we can do to reconnect with ourselves. And by doing that, we can be whoever we want. Identity is important, but play can reconnect us with that identity. And that helps us build resilience. It helps us with things like role play and art and our other creative skills. And it allows us to move away from some of the really damaging, negative parts of trauma. One of the things I talk about in some of my talks is how trauma gave me some strength. It didn't just break me. it gave me something quite positive as well. And I'll talk a bit about that in my next video. But play is the bridge between what trauma did in a negative sense and how we can allow and help ourselves to turn that trauma into something more positive. I hope that makes sense. Please feel free to write some questions in the comment box below if you'd like me to elaborate on anything I've said so far.